All right. So there's no secret, I'm one of the largest shareholders of this company. It's called Equinox Gold, ticker symbol's EQX. They're going to be building a 140,000 ounce gold producer, start production of the first gold pour at the end of 2018. And then they've got the large past producer in California, which was the merger with Newcastle. Plus they've got about 6 billion pounds of copper that I believe they'll spin out in probably what, let's call it Equinox copper or whatever they'll call it. That's my speculation, not the company's. In this company, you got Greg Smith in his own right. He's going to be a titan in the industry with Greg Milau. There's no secret. I was one of the key guys bringing these two companies together. I thought they would be better together. And then they've got one of the biggest names in the industry, a guy named Ross Beatty, who's put over $65 million into this company, all right? Now you can play this. There's also listed tradable 5-year warrants that have about 4 years left on them. That's also EQX.WT. Ross owns about 10% of the company, and this is the first company in my career where I've worked with guys that I own more than Nash Jiwa, who's in the room. So that's kind of my claim to fame on this one. I like teasing Nash about that. So who is Greg Smith? He was the CFO of Mine Finders that got bought out by Pan American Silver. Who started Pan American? Ross Beatty. Who was Christian Milau? Christian Milau was with True Gold that got bought out by Endeavor. Who was Endeavor? Christian Milau worked at Endeavor. When he left Endeavor, he went to start True Gold with Mark O'Day and his partner David. Anyways, before that, he was with New Gold. These are experienced guys. Amir Nani, he sat behind me in organic chemistry class, and he's been one step behind ever since. No, he's one of my closest personal friends. My fund that I'm the largest shareholder of is the largest shareholder in Gold Mining Inc., Uranium Energy Corp. Look, it's the largest permitted facility in the US when it comes to ISR production. Amir is a rock star. Get to know him. Both of his companies are here. He single-handedly, in my opinion, easily won the Pichacucha yesterday morning. Gold mining has 21 million ounces of gold, 43,101 in the ground. It's very similar to what Ross Beatty had. It's a leverage play. So think of what Ross Beatty did with Lumina Copper, is what Amir's doing with gold mining. And look how clever he is. Look at the ticker symbol, GOLD. Before the exchange even gave the 4-letter tickers, he was in my office and said, what do you think of this? And he was the first applicant. That's what winners do. They win. And Amir's a winner. Nolan Watson also went to UBC with me, about as sharp as they get. I've known Nolan for over 10 years. He really runs Sandstorm. He's got a great team there. I was the lead order in Sandstorm Metals and Energy that ended up being bought out by Sandstorm Gold. It's a royalty company. They are here. And it's not just Nolan, it's his team. I call him the 4th floor on the CIBC tower on the corner of 400 West Pender, which is on Pender and Burrard. They have a whole floor, and on that floor you got Marcel DeGroot, you got Dave DeWitt, you got Catherine McLeod, David Oram. There's just a smart group of guys. Greg Smith, you might want to get to know who that is. He's probably going to do an IPO later this year. There's some really, really good guys. Greg Davies. I was thinking Greg Smith. Greg Davies with his Ethiopian project. So there's some great guys on that floor. And, Nolan's got a powerhouse of a streaming company there and royalty company. Stephen DeJong. I've never been able to invest in Stephen because his partner, George Salamis, who I've known for over a decade, Stephen and I, we came close to structuring where I'd buy 19% of his company, Integra, that got bought out, except we had a disagreement on warrants. And he yet hasn't seen the light of the warrants. I'm a big believer in the warrants, and I stick to my guns. They stuck to their guns, and it worked out well for both. I did Northern Dynasty. They did Integra. We both made a lot of money. Write that name down. They just bought an asset from Orion, and George and Stephen have been walking around town. The thing. I don't believe they have a booth here, but these are smart guys, and they know how to build companies and sell them, and more importantly, make you, the shareholder, money. Jorge Ganoza. He comes from a mining family. Fortuna Silver, this is with Simon Ridgway's group. And then they kind of branched out on their own to do Atico Mining. The largest shareholders of Atico Mining are the family, the Ganozas. Jorge and his brother Fernando run it. I actually became the largest shareholder outside of the family. We owned up to 19.9% reporting issuer. They did really well for us. You know, there's no secret. I took my money off the table, but I was very supportive when there was no money on the street. Jorge and his brother Fernando, both companies are great, well-run companies. Fortuna will probably be bought out, and I do believe Atico will probably be bought out also. So write that name down and do your due diligence. These are great, great guys. Ivan Bebic. Seems wherever you turn around in this conference, you run into a Croatian. Oren Resources and Torque. I'll first start with Oren. Here's a guy that came off a massive win with Caden when he sold that to Agnico Eagle in 2014. Made about $25 million, and he put it all right back into the market. He's aggressive. He believes in his own stories. He finances it himself as a lead financier of his own deals. But he's built a really, really strong team. He cherry-picked the top guys from Newmont, and they all had to invest in the company. When you look at the G&A, it's very low compared to other companies because they are the largest shareholder themselves. And then here's my favorite part of it. He convinced one of Rick Rule's top guns, Michael Kosovan, to leave Rick Rule's Sprott, and then that's where Torque Resources. They have a booth. They're just outside here. Great group, guys. Look at what they're doing. There's a reason why Goldcorp came in as a major shareholder in Oren, and I believe they'll do the same with Torque. I was involved in financings on both companies. Mark O'Day, you know, he's age-wise the oldest on my generation's list, but probably looks the youngest. He ages very, very well. Mark O'Day, his claim initially was he came number 2 in the Rob McEwen Goldcorp Challenge, and from there he did Aurora Uranium, where him and I first kind of had friction. I didn't believe in the project. He ended up selling it. He did very well. He was True Gold. Remember the connection with Christian Milau? And now he's got Liberty Gold. My funds bought about 5% of Liberty Gold, and I believe in what him and Cal Everett are doing. I think Mark O'Day is definitely one of the future leaders in our industry, and I would definitely watch what he's doing. The ticker symbol is LGD on the Toronto, and I love buying stock when they're at their 100-week lows. Remember, you buy low, you sell high. Especially when you can buy stock cheaper than the guys who run the deal, it's a good sign. Pat DiCapo. Pat, if you don't know who he is, really the owner of Power One Capital, probably the single-handedly most powerful financier in Canada or the resource industry. If you look at some of the big wins in the resource side, like Aurelian, that today is the Fruta del Norte asset that is owned by the Lundin Gold, world-class asset. That was Pat's second project. He started out really big, guns a-blazing, made a couple of $100 million, turned it to over $400 million. And I was stupid enough that when I invested him on what became Canopy Growth, I got bored and needed money when I financed Northern Dynasty to become the main shareholder of that. I sold Canopy Growth, and today it went up another 20 times from when we sold. It's a $48 stock. Pat financed it and structured it at 30 cents. When you see the Power One Capital, pay attention. This guy bets big. His big bets in gold right now, if you got your pen out, is white gold. They're here. That's Sean Ryan. And another one of his companies that has done extremely well that I believe will be bought out is Neolithium. Open disclosure, I'm a shareholder in both. What he's doing with Neolithium, we visited the project. We did a full comprehensive write-up on it. It really is one of the best, highest grade, lowest impurity lithium projects on the planet. Pay attention to Pat DiCapo. I know it sounds like he's a gangster. Sometimes he treats you. He's the godfather of Toronto, that's for sure. Jordan Trimble, the youngest on the list, and I am willing to bet that in 10 years, he will be one of the mainstays in the industry. It's not easy dealing with me as a major shareholder. I challenge him. His father was in the industry for almost 40 years, made a lot of money early on, and I wanted to see what he would do with that money. And when he made his decision, I said, good, because if you bought a fancy car like every other idiot rounder in the city when he makes his first score, you would never be welcome in my office again. He bought half, bought a house. The other half he put back into the markets. He's the president and CEO and the everything of Sky Harbor. Sky Harbor is a really interesting uranium story. Why? Because the Lundin company called Denison is the largest shareholder. The second largest shareholder is my fund. So you got David Cates on the board, who's as smart as it gets in the uranium world. They've got great projects, and more importantly, through an introduction from me about 5 years ago, Rick Kazmersky met Jordan, liked him, took him as his own son, wrote lots of money checks, and became the head geological team. And I'm telling you, what they have in the projects in the Athabasca Basin, they are the cheapest, undervalued company with resources. You look at the shareholder base, the Trimble family owns about 19%, my fund's at about 19%, and I believe Denison's about 19.9. This one's not going to lack funding. And Ira Thomas, I don't know how many people came to my talk earlier. I don't know what she's going to do. You never know. But there's nobody in the industry with a better record than 4 for 4 in the industry. When you see that name pop out on your press release, pay attention. Because Goldcorp and Teck, all these companies, they want someone with the experience like Ira to run these companies. She is a winner. It's in her DNA. So I've got a few minutes to take some questions. I'm here. I gave you 10 names, about 15 stocks. Don't be shy. I'm not. Yes, sir. Catherine McLeod and Bear Creek. I never bought any. I have the utmost respect for Catherine McLeod and Dave DeWitt, who's, that whole group, Marcel, that's all their deal. I don't like legal battles unless I really think I can win. Northern Dynasty was a legal battle, but I saw a light at the tunnel. I'm not so sure on the metallurgy on that one. That's just my opinion on that. So I don't know. It's a huge, huge silver deposit. If I'm wrong on the metallurgy, that is a world-class deposit. With the legal asset and my questions on the geology that I have, I think I can be patient on the sidelines. Good question, though. Next question. Brian Edgar, you got a question for me? Yes, sir. First Mining Finance? First Mining? Yeah, First Mining Finance and Gold. That's a Keith Neumeyer company. So when he went public, I own 10% of it. I own no more today, not because I don't believe in the company. There's only so much money you have to play with deals. They were a mineral bank, and now they're advancing organic growth on their projects, especially the ones in Canada. Keith Neumeyer is a pretty impressive character. He built First Majestic Silver into one of the world's largest independent pure silver companies. I first met him about 16 years ago when First Majestic was like 60 cents. He's a winner, so never bet against the people. It's not a cheap company, and it's leveraged to the price of gold. That's the story. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Thank you. The man behind you. Okay, this is great. How can retail investors find out about private placements? It's actually really hard. You have to do the work. There's a couple of companies that do the good work. I think my firm's one of the top in the industry. You got Canadian Financing Bulletin, that's one. They break it down by sector. A buddy of mine owns that. They're very good. Press releases is another way. But you have to be accredited according to the rules of the exchange, which I think is absolutely ridiculous because it's kind of like a formula that the rich get richer. So guys like Rick Rule, and I guess, these bad guys who do these financings and stuff, they have an advantage over you. They're not bad guys, they're really good guys. But what I'm getting at is their cost of capital is lower than yours buying in the open market. So find the brokers, and I do a lot of that through my newsletter. We broke a Toronto Stock Exchange record for a financing, which today is Equinox Gold, for the number of accredited investors, and I don't take any fees off that. So I'm turning the model upside down because I work for my subscribers, not the companies. But I'm telling you guys, think about private placements. Because if you win twice as much. Yes. I can't hear. There's a microphone right there, guys. Don't be shy.
Are the requirements different for U.S. investors versus Canadian investors?
No.
It's the same?
Yeah, and just make sure if you're an American investor, I wrote a whole thing about how American investors can be treated the same as Canadian investors. Americans, because of something called the 1933 legend, it takes you way longer to lift a legend, and if your broker doesn't know what he's doing for these junior stocks, it could take you months to lift your legend. So we figured out a way to make sure Americans get treated the same way as Canadians. I've got 3 minutes. Yes, sir. Am I in Hive? No. I bought Fortress blockchain because I believe it's cheaper. I still try to be a value guy, and I say that with the predication that everything in the crypto is based on a relative valuation, not absolute valuation, where in today's companies you can buy absolute valuation, absolute value. It's very different than relative value. Hopefully that makes sense. Any other questions? Yes? Sorry, I can't hear you. Any small cap PGs? Yes, but there'd be Liberty Gold on this list it is a micro cap. It's 40 million bucks. If I can have multiple million ounces in the U.S. with a portfolio in Turkey that I think is cheaper than the market cap of the company, they could spin that out for more than the market cap of the company. I get all the U.S. assets for free, and Mark O'Day and Cal Everett. Stick with that. Mr. Jiwa, what's your question? Oh, Adam Lundin. That is Lucas's son, and what's brilliant what Lucas did was he told him to go get experience outside of the Lundin group to start. He started on the other side of the street with Pareto, very experienced. He understands what the bankers are, and now he runs Philo. The reason why he's not on this list is I want to see what he does in the next couple of years with Philo, but definitely a name to watch. Look, like I believe in Pareto's law, if you find out a lot of these people like Ira's father's in the Hall of Fame, you look at Jim O'Rourke who's in the Hall of Fame, his son runs Mosaic, which is the world's largest phosphate company, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. Yes, ma'am. I can't hear you, sir. There's a microphone right there. GoviX? Okay, the question is GoviX. So that's Govin Friedland's company. That's Robert Friedland's son. I know the assets in the Arlet Basin. I've been to them. I just believe there's cheaper uranium plays because I don't want to deal with the infrastructure risk or the geopolitical risk. And I don't think they're economic at $40 uranium when I could go down to the Athabasca Basin or down in the US, and I don't have to deal with geopolitical risk or infrastructure risk. So it's all about my cost of capital. I got time for one more question. Cobalt space. I just wrote a whole research report about it, so clearly you're not a subscriber. You should be a subscriber. Oh, you are? Then you didn't read my report. You probably want to start with Glencore. They control the chessboard, kind of like what Cameco is in uranium. Glencore is that, but be careful with the cobalts. Right now, it's the flavor of the day. Guys, my time is up to the second. Thank you very much. Up next.